Hey there, my name's Casey. You are at the Monday 5:30 Mindfulness Meditation half hour. It's July 24th. In 4 days, I will be 36 years old. Very exciting stuff. July 28th is my birthday. Um, no thoughts on that, really, at least not right now. One of the things that I love about meditation mindfulness is that every moment is an opportunity to deepen our practice. Every single moment, day or night, is an opportunity for us to go deeper into the practice. And there's not a lot of disciplines that have that kind of instant accessibility, total accessibility, you could say. Um, Meditation and mindfulness are oftentimes used interchangeably because there's so many corresponding or parallel elements with the two terms. And I think that that's appropriate because one um, goes into or strengthens the other. And there's formal meditation practice, which is what we focus on here, or at least the theory of formal meditation practice, which is taking time to stop, sit down, be still voluntarily, intentionally, and allow yourself to dwell in the present moment. And I mean, dwell in a peaceful sense, although it might not always feel that way. Emotions are intense, and they can be intense. And when we meditate, we sit with them and we just allow them to be. And that can oftentimes be the hardest part of the practice. Formal meditation practice, or the theory of formal meditation practice, is what we focus on here every Monday. Informal is putting the formal practice into practice in our more active life. And so we take it with us. We need one to strengthen the other. One is influential and strengthening the other, whether it's formal or informal, but formal is a kind of foundation. I think that that one's harder. But the more we practice formal meditation, the more accessible the informal meditation becomes. And that could be us doing the dishes or driving or whatever we're doing. A few points have come to mind that I brought up over the past year or so in terms of emotions, sitting with emotions, strong emotions. And Alan Watts said the most effective way to process or move through an emotion is to allow yourself to feel it completely. The most effective way to process and move through an emotion is to allow yourself to feel it completely without any kinds of hands-on effort. We're not trying to control the experience. In fact, the only control we're taking is the willful act of letting go and just allowing things to be exactly as they are. Most emotions last about 90 seconds. There's been a study to show that. Depending on the emotion, the context, how you're feeling, what time of day, if you've eaten, if you've had enough water, if you got enough sleep, all of these play a role in the intensity or the, I guess, range of your emotions. If we don't take care of ourselves, there tends to be more negative emotions around that, whether we're tired or we haven't had enough to eat or something. That all influences us. But the idea of allowing everything to come and go just as it is, without any kind of hands-on trying to manipulate or control our experience, that's what meditation's all about. And if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. That was a something that we would say in Colorado, especially in the summer, because the weather would just change all the time. Not so much in California, but if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. And 5 minutes is actually a very long time. I doubt that any emotion will last that long. Or if we're looking into or looking at an emotion for 5 minutes, we'll see that while maybe the emotion has stayed around, it's not set. It's not fixed as in stuck. We notice that it changes the way that we feel it in our body, the places that we feel it in our body. All of that changes. It becomes more fluid by breathing mindfully as we experience emotions or whatever we're experiencing in the present moment. We allow a healthy kind of circulation to move around in the human body, and then that finally dissipates. And it may come back, it may not, but you may notice, and mindfulness is always mindfulness of something. Mindfulness always has a focal point. And so if we focus on our thoughts, we'll notice that we don't really experience the same thought the same way each time, which is to say a thought may come by and it may carry a strong, unpleasant or negative feeling charged to it. And when we get the thought, there's an instant physiological response. It could be anxiety, it could be fear, it could be anger, whatever it is, that thought has a charge to it. But if we sit with it and we allow that experience to come and go, and oftentimes 90 seconds, the experience that I've had recently is within a couple of breaths, the emotion has already changed. And whenever I felt an emotion of fear or anger coming up, I'd glance at the clock and I'd think, okay, let me see just how long this is going to be. I'm just going to breathe. And oftentimes, more often than not, I would actually forget that I was trying to focus on my breath, and I'd go back to driving or whatever. And I would notice, oh yeah, it's gone. And I'd look and it would only have been a couple of minutes. But within the time frame of a few breaths, a few cycles of breath, the emotion has either left or changed. And so if we're getting a certain thought that comes by and the instantaneous physiological response is such that it makes us very uncomfortable or angry or fearful or an unpleasant experience, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. If we only focus on that, then every time that thought comes around, we're going to be afraid of the thought, and we're going to be afraid of the power that we're giving that thought. We may not realize that we're giving the thought that power, but the more we try to push the thought away or think, oh no, here it comes again, and we try to tense ourselves or steel ourselves against the effects of that thought, it's just going to get more and more powerful, because the most effective way to process and move through an emotion is to allow yourself to feel it completely. And if we can do that in stillness, then in a formal context, then we can practice doing that throughout our day in a more active context. We may notice that the same thought comes around, but this time there's no charge to it. Or maybe it's a different charge. Maybe we suddenly see it from a different perspective. If we allow ourselves to look deeply at whatever's coming and going, we start to notice that we rarely experience the same thought the same way. There may be familiarities around certain experiences, certain charges, certain responses, but the more we focus in, the more we direct our mindfulness, our attention to whatever the present moment's giving us. In this case, our emotional state is the focal point of our mindfulness. The more we do that, the more we realize that everything is constantly changing. Meditation is a practice of impermanence, beautiful practice of impermanence. And when we start to embrace that change, suddenly these thoughts are no longer our enemy. We don't have to run from them. We don't have to cling to them. We don't have to do anything. We just allow them to come and go. There's a poem, a Zen poem that I love. It says, "The wind whistles through the bamboo and the bamboo dances. The wind stops and the bamboo is still. A bird flies over the silver lake, and once the bird has passed, the lake does not try to hold on to the bird's reflection." We're just allowing everything to come and go. The wind blowing through the bamboo, that can be a strong emotion that is moving through us. And the less we try to resist, because the mathematical equation I've referenced before is pain times resistance equals suffering. Pain times resistance equals suffering. If there's no resistance to the pain or whatever we're feeling, there's no suffering there. There may be pain, because we are all of the nature to experience pain, to experience ill health. And that is not just physically, that can also be mentally as well, very much so. But because we're all of the nature to experience pain, we're not trying to push away the pain, but our interpretation, our relationship to the pain is what can be controlled. That's what can be strengthened and used to our advantage, to where it really starts to serve us. So moment by moment, breath by breath, every second of every day is an opportunity for us to deepen in our practice, to stop, reconnect with your breath, and just notice how you're feeling. What am I feeling right now? Where am I feeling right now? What am I thinking right now? These are all awesome questions to ask. These are all great questions to ask, because we're kind of taking an inventory of sorts, just noticing where we're at any given point in the day, whether it's formal meditation and we're sitting in stillness, doing open monitoring, practicing looking that way, or we're making our way throughout the day, noticing how we're feeling standing in line or whatever. The more we can connect or reconnect and check in with ourselves, the more we realize that everything is constantly changing, and the more we can actually take refuge in the mindfulness of that change. We don't have to get swept up in an emotion. The emotions are the same, we're just not controlled by them. The thought may be the same, but we often experience that exact same thought in many, many different ways. When we start to realize that, we notice, oh, yeah, okay, well, this is more of an intense, perhaps negative translation of that thought or negative way to experience this thought. But I'm going to stay with my breath because the next time it comes around, it might not be like that. And chances are, the more we look, the more we start to realize that emotions and thoughts are like shadows. At first, they can seem very overwhelming. They can seem very scary. But if we continue to look at them, the shadows change. They may get bigger for a little while, and then they start to shrink, and we can start to see them for what they really are, which is just thoughts, just emotions. Everything's impermanent. And when we embrace that impermanence, the freedom and the knowledge, the wisdom that comes with meditation, that's what the practice is all about. So find a comfortable seated position and we'll get started taking it moment by moment, breath by breath, starting to get still, relaxing and allowing everything to be as it is. Deep breath in. Let it go. Gently blink your eyes open. Around my late 20s, I realized that the scariest thing in the entire world for me was to be alone with myself. The most terrifying thing for me was to sit alone with myself, because then I would just have to deal with my emotions, my thoughts, whatever was going on, unresolved trauma, etc. Meditation is a cumulative practice. Even if we do it for a few moments each day, that process gets easier and easier. Many of us don't come back to ourselves, and that shows. We suffer because of it. The more we connect or reconnect with ourselves, the healthier we are, happier we are, the more we understand ourselves. And understanding is the fruit of meditation. I want to thank you for sharing your meditation practice with me today. Always good to see you. See you soon.